Record. Awesome. Let's see. Multi-speaker. Amazing. Cool. So I am the manager for Decolonize You at Honor the Earth. I'm a detribalized, reconnecting, and reclaiming relative. My pronouns are she, her, hers. I want to thank the entire team at Honor the Earth. Everyone's work is critical um, for what we do in defending and protecting Mother Earth. For this session particularly, I want to thank our communications department for their energy and labor, development as well for their energy and labor, and our finance teams. We're excited. We're all here. We're all representing, and we're excited and honored that you're joining us today. Um, yeah, so I want to get into a little bit of who Honor the Earth is first and foremost, and also Decolonize You. So, Honor the Earth's vision is creating a world where Indigenous sovereignty is recognized, respected, and upheld. We envision a future where communities thrive with honor, abundance, and in right relationship with Mother Earth. Our mission is a commitment to protecting the lifeways and sovereignty of our Indigenous relatives across Mother Earth. We do this by investing in our communities and a new generation of organizers through campaigns, research, training, and reclaiming our narrative and providing support, capacity support, and service of all land and life. Decolonize You is a knowledge sharing platform to provide skills and learning in the fight for climate justice and the protection of Mother Earth. We know that Indigenous peoples hold the solutions to climate change, and so Decolonize You is a platform to weave those solutions together, bring them to our communities, and organize for our collective liberation. We envision a place where education is a weapon in our fight for Indigenous sovereignty. So let's get into it with our presentation today with some slides. Here we go. Ah, okay, amazing. One sec. There we go. Can everybody see that okay? Can I get a verbal yes? For some reason, there we go. I don't know why. Here we go. Okay. There we go. Now it's working. Perfect. Thank you for your patience on that. Everybody see that okay?
Yes.
Awesome. Thank you, Lella. Awesome. And so one more housekeeping note that I just want to share with y'all. Today we have a youth from the Democratic Republic of the Congo. And so we are doing simultaneous French to English. Thank you, Laura. French to English, English to French interpretation offline. Um, and so I want to kindly ask our facilitators as well as our participants, and really more of a critique of mine because I talk kind of fast. We should slow down. One of those languages or signs that we use to slow down is this one. And you might also see that in the chat, a little turtle. And that's going to symbolize for us to just slow down our pace, right? Sometimes we get a little anxious, we get a little nervous. We'll talk a little fast. We go fast. That speed moves up, right? And so we're going to slow down, right? So welcome aboard. And here we go. Let's kick it off. So yeah, we want to welcome y'all, the youth. We're excited to learn with you today, learn from you. And also, let's see the chat. Yeah, welcome, Seth. So glad you're here. Yes, cool. So I want to welcome y'all to this space. And let's take a quick overview of what we're doing today. So we're going to do a quick grounding. And then we're going to go into a quick introduction for our course today. We'll do 3 activities with our amazing facilitators, Lala, Sabrina, and Taylor, and then we'll come back to me for closing. All right. So today for grounding, we're gonna do just some quick stretches. Do a little bit kind of hybrid yoga. Hopefully my camera and everything work okay and you can see me okay. Um, so let's take a look. Oh, okay. My dog's on the yoga mat. So okay. He said nah. Okay, cool. So let's get we going here. So just stand up, and I'm not a yoga teacher, so please do what you're comfortable with. If you have injuries, if you have pain, if you're just not comfortable with any of it, stop. Don't force yourself to do it, okay? So backing up, I'm gonna set a timer. Just a handful of minutes here. Okay, and we're gonna do shoulder width apart. Okay, you're gonna reach up for the sky. Look up, look up, look up. And then we're gonna come down. Ah, nice. Reach for the ground. Let your toesies and the foot of and the base of your feet dig into the earth and be stable, or the ground or the floor. Reach, 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 reach. Remember to breathe. Nice, deep breaths. Okay. Okay, now you're gonna move. No, you're just readjusting. Okay. From that same position, you're gonna go forward and you're going to create an upside down V. They also call this downward dog. So you're going to do like this. Oh, my dog is not cooperating today. Just to be, imagine upside down V. Make sure your heels are touching down on the ground, on your carpet, on your floor, whatever it is. And they're solid down. Your fingers are spread out and stable. Your back is as straight as you can get it. And you should be feeling that stretch on the back of your legs. Nice and gentle, not painful, not uncomfortable, just nice and gentle. Don't forget to breathe. Nice, big, stable, deep breaths. That's good. All right. We're going to gently move your feet back a little bit. And you're going to do upward facing dog. We just did downward. We're going to do upward. You're going to bring your buttocks down. And you're going to push up with your arms. And you're going to look up. Again, not painful, not uncomfortable. We're just stretching. The soles of your feet are up. You should be feeling that stretch in your abdominals. Remember, nice deep breaths. You want to stretch too, bud? Okay, you're snoring. Nice deep breaths. Oh, yeah. Move your neck around if you would like. All right, push up with your arms. And nice and gentle, we're going to go ahead and sit back on your calves. And you're going to come down on the ground. And you're going to feel this stretch and you're going to reach forward like this. You're going to feel this stretch on your back and maybe a little in your hips. take a few breaths, nice deep there. Mm. All right, nice. Last big deep breath. Beautiful. Slowly and gently come on up. And let's make our way back to our chairs. You took my yoga mat, buddy. It's like, yeah, you put this out for me. Okay. Amazing. I hope that was helpful to folks. Just get the blood flowing, get some muscles moving. Um, yeah, and steady our breath a little bit and ground. So, moving on to, here we go, to our introduction today. So, the theme of today's session is what does it mean to honor the earth, right? Our organization is called Honor the Earth. I've given a little bit of an intro there. And so to set the stage today, I'm going to show you this brief video. Um, Before I do though, I do want to say that indigenous peoples on this continent, known as so-called United States, but known to indigenous peoples as Turtle Island, has a long history, right? Before what you're about to see here. And so I want you to keep that in mind, that this is like a short snippet of recent modern history. But it's important to remember that indigenous people around the globe have been living in symbiotic relationship with Mother Earth, defending Mother Earth, protecting Mother Earth, um, all kinds of things, right? And so this is just a little quick snippet of a brief history of environmental justice. Nationally, facilities where we dump our garbage and process dangerous chemicals tend to be located in poor and minority communities. The people who live there have little or no protection from the industries around them, and things could get worse. So there's this idea of environmental justice. It's pretty simple. Communities shouldn't be forced to deal with more pollution because they belong to a certain race, national origin, or income bracket. Yet America has struggled over the years to implement any serious policy that actually protects these communities. So let's lay out the ways the government has failed them.
We will not allow Warren County to become a dump site.
The fight for environmental justice took off in 1982 when residents of Warren County, North Carolina mounted mass demonstrations against a plan to dump contaminated soil in a landfill in their community. The EPA investigated 4 similar landfills in southern states and found that they were all located in Black or low-income neighborhoods. In 1987, the United Church of Christ Racial Justice Commission found that around the country, hazardous waste facilities were more likely to be located in mostly minority communities. Amid mounting proof, the federal government was forced to act.
George Herbert Walker Bush.
So in 1992, President George H.W. Bush founded the Office of Environmental Justice inside the EPA. 2 years later, President Bill Clinton signed an executive order requiring federal agencies to consider environmental justice in all of their policies, as well as extending civil rights protection to environmental discrimination. But Congress never passed a bill to make Clinton's executive order law. Then came George W. Bush. His administration shifted the focus of the Office of Environmental Justice from protecting low-income and minority communities to all people, leaving vulnerable populations without a federal environmental advocate.
80% of New Orleans, including much of downtown, is underwater.
Under Bush, many environmental civil rights claims were rejected or delayed for years. In 2009, after President Barack Obama's election, his administration recommitted to environmental justice.
Generally speaking, in this country, a lot of environmentally problematic facilities tend to be located in places where poor folks live.
Yet, during the 2 years Democrats controlled the House, the Senate, and the White House, they didn't file a single bill focused on strengthening environmental justice protections. Passing major environmental legislation faded further when Republicans took control of Congress in the 2010 midterm elections. Now, President Donald J. Trump is making good on his vow to weaken the EPA.
Environmental protection, what they do is a disgrace. Every week they come out with new regulations. They're making it
Who's going to protect
impossible.
the environment?
They will be fine with the environment. We can leave a little bit.
This budget, a 31% cut to the EPA, $2.6 billion cut away from the EPA. That's what the president wants.
As the EPA loses funding and regulations are rolled back, vulnerable communities may very likely fall through the cracks. I'm Talia Buford. I'll be covering these communities and digging into systemic environmental injustice. If you have something to tell me, email me at talia.buford@propublica.org.
Okay, so that couches our modern environmental history in the recent, like I said, like modern times, right? Very recent. But I want to make sure that we understand that this is an ongoing struggle. It's rooted in generations and generations, like millennia time immemorial, right? And to that end, I want to make sure and yeah, I want to make sure that and introduce amazing Sabrina. I'll hand it over to you for this portion. Oh, one sec. Oh, that's why. Awesome. So, yeah, Sabrina, with our finance team, I'll hand it over to you for our first activity.
Awesome. Thank you, Wendy. Hamidaki Gaya Yahipi, Chante Washte Napechu Zapi, Sabrina Imachiapi, Makloshicha Himantahan Na Miniluzahan Elwati. And I'll translate. Hello, everyone. It's good that you came. I greet you with a warm heart handshake. My name is Sabrina, and I'm from Rocky Ford, South Dakota, located on the Pioneer Reservation in South Dakota, and I live in Rapid City, South Dakota. I'm an enrolled member of the Cheyenne River Sioux tribe, and I also carry Oglala and Hunkpapa lineage. Just wanted to introduce myself before I begin talking about our first activity, which is what does it mean to honor the earth? And so I wanted to share from a Lakota perspective, but I also wanted to hear from you as well. So if you would like to drop in the chat, if you want to answer that question in your own words, what does it mean to honor the earth? So again, if you can, if you're open to sharing, please drop your answer in the chat. What does it mean to honor the earth? Awesome. Okay, Wendy said be in right relationship. Anna said I try my best not to use AI since it takes up a lot of water. Laura said it means protecting the earth. And that's it in its simplest form. It means that we protect the earth. So for my two topics I wanted to talk about during this activity is, we're going to define Earth in her existence from a Lakota perspective. And I also wanted to define everyday ways that we can honor the Earth. So us as human beings, we tend to forget that Earth is a living being. Earth is more complex than a round rock floating in the universe. As a Lakota, I show respect and honor the earth as a Wakan, or sacred being. We refer to earth as Unchi Maka, or grandmother earth. Earth is our first mother. She feeds us, she nourishes us with food and water. She shelters us and keeps us safe and warm. Earth is not only home to human beings, but also home to other two-legged beings, four-legged beings, winged beings, as well as the plants, grass, trees, flowers, etc. And so this is important for us to reground ourselves in that sense of mind, because when we're talking about environmental issues, we're not only talking about environmental issues for ourselves, but also for the plants that surround us and the animals that surround us as well. And then something to encourage you, wherever you are, I would like you to take some time after the series to sit down in a quiet place, away from the city and its sound, its pollution. This is something that I was able to do this last week, was to leave the city and be somewhere quiet and calm. And I'm sorry, Vi, I did not see that. Challenging the people in power. When you're in this space where there's nothing around you except Earth and her living creation, you'll be able to hear her breathe. The wind dance around you, the sun will bring you warmth. This is the foundation of how we begin to honor the earth. We acknowledge her existence as it is. This is also important because it reconnects us to our first home, as mentioned before, in Unchi Maka, Grandmother Earth, which would lead us to treat Earth as our mother. And our mothers, we care for our mothers, so we should care for her as well from a place of gratitude and wonder. I also wanted to share with you a creation story. Indigenous peoples around the world, we all carry oral stories, we carry traditions, we carry teachings, and those also come from oral teachings. And so I wanted to share you what I was told and what I have been constantly hearing throughout my life. And it's our creation story of how Unchimaka came to be. I am going to turn my camera off so I can read it to you. But I just want you to take the time to listen and observe, and let me know your thoughts at the end, okay? Okay, this comes from Life's Journey, Zuya. It's Oral Teachings from Rosebud from Albert Whitehat Sr. In the beginning was Ea. Ea was a rock. And Ea was in total darkness. Ea was soft. Ea was Wakan, sacred. Ea began creation by draining its blood. From this blood created a huge disk around itself. Ea called this disk Maka, the earth. Half of the disk was land and half was water. Ea called the water Mini. The color of Ea's blood was blue. And Maka, Mini, and Ea got together and separated out this color. They threw it up into the air and it became Makpiato, the sky. Then Maka said, "It's dark and I'm cold." And Ea created Ampetui, the sun, in daytime to give light and warmth. Then Maka said, "It's too bright and too hot." And Ea created Hahempiwi, the moon, in nighttime to balance light and darkness. Then Ea created Tate to give breath to life. Tate is wind. Maka said, "I need a covering. I'm naked and I need a covering." So Ea got together with the others and taught, and then said to Maka, "If we give you a covering, you must promise to give it life and nourishment." Maka promised to do so, and life began on earth. This life began in the form of grass, plants, flowers, bushes, and trees, and as each new form came in, another need arose. All of creation came together to address each new need and to decide on the next one to come in. As each new being came in, Ea created the other one, just like it in the universe. For every blade of grass, there is the other in the universe. For every tree, the other one is in the universe. For every being that came in, Ea created the other in the universe. Draining its blood for each new creation, Ea became weaker and weaker. The last to be created was the human nation. Ea created Wea, woman, to be like the earth, give life and nourishment to all of her children. Ea created Wichasha, man, to be like the universe, to provide nourishment and protection. The universe and earth create life together. Man and woman create life together. When creation was complete, Ea was dry and brittle and broke apart and scattered all over the world. So, with me, from my perspective, when I understand that Earth is a living being, when I understand that sky is a living being, the sun, the moon, we it helps me understand that I should care for them because they are all that I have, right? Something for us to think about, as we go on in our life is that we only have one home. This is the only home we will have, and so we should take care of it. So I want to hear what you think. If you have any questions or comments about that little story, I will make sure to share the link at the end of the book if you would like to read it. It's a really great book. Awesome, Laura. Yeah, I'll make sure to share the link with you. Again, it's called Life's Journey, Zuya, by Albert Whitehat. So for my second prompt, I said that we were going to define everyday ways that we can honor the earth. So here at Honor the Earth, our vision is to create a world where Indigenous sovereignty is recognized, respected, and upheld. Okay? We envision a future where communities thrive with honor, abundance, and in right relationship with Mother Earth. That is the forefront of our work. And so for us to have this series to pass on to you is important because you are our next generation. You are the future generation. You are who's going to actually make a difference in the world, right? The foundation that we've set down for you, now you get to lead the way. And so there are ways for you to focus on this as you grow older, as you mature, as you walk through life. And I just wanted to share some thoughts on this and some ideas of ways that you could work towards this. And I would start with practice gratitude for the earth. This can mean being thankful for the fresh air that you breathe. This could mean the clean water that you drink. This could mean being grateful for the whole foods that you eat. Time and time again, we find ourselves going through the motions of life. And as a young adult, I go through the motions of life. So for me to pause and to be thankful for the foods that I receive, to be thankful for the water that I receive, to be thankful for the air that I receive is really important to me, not only from just being a young adult, but also from me being a mother. I have to pass these teachings on to my child too. And so he can walk forward in a good way as well. My family, we go hunting, we go foraging. I'm grateful to live in an area where I'm able to do that. And so something that I do to share gratitude for the earth is when we go foraging for the native plants and the foods that my ancestors have eaten, is I bring prayer tobacco with me. And I either say a prayer or I sing a prayer and I thank earth for nourishing me. And I give that to her as an offering so I can take that turnip, so I can take those berries, so I can take the takcha or the deer. And so the little moments like that, they mean a lot. Everything stacks on each other throughout life. The other thing that I wanted to know is explore. You as young adults, you are at a point in your life where you can go anywhere you want. You can set forth on certain subjects, certain topics. And so for you, what I would recommend and really want you to look into the idea of is to study and become familiar with the biodiversity in your region. This means not only just the plants and the animals that we see every day, but the native plants and animals. Who was there first? Who isn't there now? How do we change that? How do we make that better? In my area, in our prairie grass, there is actually a lot of invasive grass. Very rare do we have ancestral prairie grass. And so acknowledging that existence and acknowledging that that's a situation right now in modern times is really important. Also explore and study the streams in your area, the lakes, the rivers, the non-man-made waters that are around you. And go beyond that, protect. We'll talk a little about this later with Lala, but I like to mention it here too. Locally, observe the systems in your area and determine if they're good for the environment or not. How these systems impact you and your community. Internationally, because this is the seed, the seed to something bigger. And so internationally, what does this look like? You can also observe and bring light to larger concerns that do not honor the earth and exploit the natural resources around you, as well as around other indigenous tribes and communities. This would be like pollution to the four elements, extraction, deforestation, plant and animal extinction. We're seeing rivers and lakes shrinking, which destroys homes, for our fish relatives, right? Intensive farming of non-native animals. Where I'm from, we had buffalo, not the buffalo you see today. Time has elapsed, things have happened, and now we see this new cross of buffalo, and we see cattle everywhere. And cattle was not native to our land. It was buffalo, this ancestral buffalo that my people would coexist with. So look at that in your area. Look at that internationally as well. Also the non-native plants and the non-native animals. There's a lot of migration going on. There's a lot of human migration going on. Humans take certain animals and certain plants and put them in other places where they don't belong. And what does this do to the native plants and animals in your area? So just something for you to think about. And, in closing, I really want to reiterate this. You are a young leader. You can honor the earth by practicing this restorative lifestyle. It's never too late to start. This can include small things, right? The small things make the biggest change. This would be like recycling, reducing, reusing, learning to compost, learning to grow your own foods, and inviting others like-minded to create a community of young leaders in your area and to treat every day as if it was Earth Day. So I'll pause there. If anyone has any questions or comments, you can go ahead and drop them in the chat below. Or if you would like to unmute yourself, that's fine as well. Awesome. Thank you. Hand it back to you, Wendy.
Thank you, Sabrina. That was amazing. Thank you for grounding us and providing indigenous, native, cosmovision, as we say, cosmology, in Genesis. That was beautiful. Building on that, I want to hand it over to Lala. No, apologies, Taylor, for activity 2. What do you see every day that isn't kind to the earth? Take it away, Taylor.
Yeah, so
Hey y'all, I'm Taylor. I am the donor relations manager here at Honor the Earth, but my real passion is education. I mean, my second passion is education. I am a reconnecting and detribalized relative. I identify as Chicana, and I am calling in from Oklahoma, the ancestral lands of the Kiowa, Apache, Comanche, Absentee, Shawnee, Caddo, and Wichita. And yeah, so my section, we're going to be exploring actions that dishonor and exploit the earth. So, and that exploit the earth, indigenous peoples, and all of our relatives. So in section 1, Sabrina did a fantastic job at explaining kind of how we can kind of think of life and engage in actions that protect and nourish life, and honor the earth. And I'm sure so many of us can think of the daily actions that we see that harm the earth, right? That are inconsistent with our desire to honor the earth, right? I also want to note that if there's any language in here that's unfamiliar to you, don't be afraid to drop it in the chat. I've tried to define my language here, but this is going to be a practice in kind of naming, right? And putting a language to identify harms, right? So, yeah, sometimes that language can kind of get, it can get kind of deep. And it might not be language that we use every day, and that's on purpose, right? Because systems or harm thrives when it is invisible and when it is not spoken about, or it is not being recognized, right? And so yeah, if there's any language that that needs to be defined, let me know. So the first thing I wanted to talk about is that we are all obviously individuals who take actions every single day that may honor or dishonor Mother Earth and the life that she brings. But when we look at things on a larger level, right, the impact of our collective actions can either cause greater harm or greater benefit. And so our individual actions are part of larger systems of ingrained beliefs, practices, and cultural norms that take root in society. And we refer to these systems as systems of power. So we're going to call it that. I'm going to refer to these systems as systems of power because they serve to empower some people through harm against others. And so just like we're identifying the earth as, I guess, a relative that needs to be honored, right? When we're thinking about our relationships with other relatives, it's a question of, are these actions that honor or actions that dishonor? There's many systems of power that exist that do affect us, our relatives, and all of our relations locally and or globally. So it can be either or both. As Sabrina discussed before, in honoring the earth, we have to remember that the earth nourishes all of our lives and connects us all. And if everyone is connected through political, economic, or social systems, then the effects of our actions have a multiplier effect through that rootedness of systems of power because they're normalized. There's things that we think of as normal. And then that means that we have an obligation or a responsibility to interrogate or explore or understand how our actions may affect our relatives because of our participation in these systems. So I want to define systemic power relations, right? Those systems of power and the relationships, our actions and our interactions with our environment, with the earth, with all of our relatives. Those are bi-directional because they are rooted. This means on one hand, what we do may reinforce the systems, but also on the other hand, these systems influence us because we were born into communities and societies that were established long before we were born. We inherited them through our ancestors and people who have lived before us, right? They're rooted, they're ingrained. So because by virtue of being born, we inherit them. Systems can also intersect with each other. So there's multiple different systems of power that different groups benefit from, and there can be actions that sustain multiple systems or are influenced by multiple systems because our lives are messy. So our actions may be complicit in multiple systems of harm and may put multiple relatives at risk. So we can use both of those approaches in this activity. So there's 3 things that we want to identify in this section. One is going to be naming systems of power that harm. 2 is naming who is harmed or who's at risk by virtue of these systems and how. And 3 is naming everyday actions that are part of these systems that are considered to be normal to society. So I'm going to put that in the chat because I want everybody to remember all of those things, right? So it kind of connects our individual actions with the collective impact of them, right? That multiplier effect. So we're naming the systems, who's at risk, and what are the actions that we can identify on a daily basis that maybe dishonor the earth, right? Or are part of harmful systems that put people at risk, right? Those are the things that we identify that we want to change. So I'll give an example. And then we can, what I want us to do is we can put them in the chat. If anybody wants to come off mute and explain, we can do that. But feel free to start brainstorming the different systems that you've recognized in your community or in your, in the cities you live in or the state you live in or the country you live in, right? That you recognize on a daily basis, like, hey, this is not right. Like, this is inconsistent with how I want to protect the earth, honor my relatives, right? All of those things. And so start thinking about those things and what you would call that. And if you were missing a piece of any of these 3 things, still suggest it or still explain it or contribute it because it's important for all of us to learn. And again, the systems thrive through not having names or kind of being made invisible so that people don't talk about them. So sometimes we don't have the language for it. And so it's still important to kind of identify those actions, even if you have a kind of a gut feeling that they're wrong, then we can learn the language and name them so that we can change the actions and change the system, if that makes sense. So it's okay to not have every part of it. Okay, so I'll give an example. So my example is settler colonialism or colonization. So that is a system of power. And it is defined as the process of displacement through settling and establishing control over the land. It is also removal and assimilation of indigenous peoples as the way to gain access to the land. So I'm going to put that in the chat so that it's there. So that's part 1. The naming of the system is settler colonialism and how it operates. Who is harmed? There's multiple groups and relatives that are harmed by the system, primarily the earth and non-human relatives, as well as indigenous peoples, because it primarily targets indigenous people's relationship with the land as stewards of the land to kind of create dominion or control over the land for exploitation. So if, because there is a connectedness between those two kind of groups of relatives, then that makes it so that it has an impact on kind of multiple relatives, right? I would also say that those who are forced to participate in settlement through enslavement or forced labor are also a group that is harmed, right? Or groups that are harmed, right? Because settler colonialism is a global system of power, right? It happens here and it happens globally and differently in different places, but it happens differently in different places, right? And so here on Turtle Island, where I'm located, it happened through enslavement of our Black relatives. And so I would also say that those who were held captive and forced to exploit the land as a part of settlement are also who was harmed by settler colonialism. So I'm going to put that in the chat as section 2, or identification number 2. So who is harmed and how they are harmed. That answers that. And then the third thing is actions that are considered to be normal to society or part of these systems. So I named a few. I think settler colonialism, it touches everything, right? It's foundational to kind of how our society operates. There's three major things that are at the top of my mind in terms of how it dishonors the earth and dishonors Indigenous people and harms Indigenous sovereignty, as well as our relatives who were displaced into, or I guess, onto Turtle Island, right? So here's some everyday participation in colonization. One is that we buy from companies that exploit the earth for profit. We live in a car-centric culture and manufacturing and housing that relies on fossil fuels as more pipelines that threaten Indigenous communities and lands and waters with spills. There have been multiple pipeline resistance camps as pipelines have popped up all across Turtle Island as the expansion of fossil fuels is kind of the infrastructure for fossil fuels is kind of expanded across Turtle Island. I live again in Oklahoma, the pipeline capital of the world, which is also the second state, or I guess it's the state in the so-called United States that has the most tribes of Indigenous peoples, right? And those things are not coincidental. They're a result of settler colonialism and the kind of, as we saw in the video before, right? The relationship between pollution and Indigenous lands, right? As well as another example being that we cede power to a colonial government. We reduce our political power to voting, whether it's federal elections every 4 years or it is state or local elections. A lot of people don't engage politically in things that affect their community unless they're ceding power to a colonial government. And we also are supposed to trust representatives, people who are non-Indigenous, as folks who can make decisions that will bring environmental justice to our communities or support Indigenous sovereignty. And then the last example is the myth that Indigenous peoples don't exist. I actually run into this a lot in Oklahoma. Sometimes this is actually said explicitly, or sometimes it's just felt in how life is conducted, like in history textbooks when Indigenous peoples are only referred to in the past tense. All of these things are things that people don't question, but are inconsistent with life. It's inconsistent with thriving Indigenous and Black communities, and it is inconsistent with the future of protections for the earth and honoring the earth. So that's my example. I don't know what that oop is at, Wendy, um, but yeah, so that's my example. I'm curious, and that's why I tried to not speak a lot, but just give a kind of in-depth example because I'm curious kind of what everybody's what everybody else is thinking. I wanted to kind of dedicate more time to brainstorming, to defining different systems, and then also how you see those systems not only harm folks, but also how they interact even with a system of extraction or exploitation of the earth as well. So I'm going to open it up. Feel free to put it in the chat or come up off of me. That's cool too. Another question that we could be thinking about is if we want to just go to the example of settler colonialism, how do you see, is there another example of actions that are kind of normalized that we see in our everyday lives that we're expected to participate in? Laura said fast fashion. Will you say more about that, Laura? Because I can already guess where you're going with this, but can you say a little bit more about who fast fashion harms, how it operates, and how we're expected to participate in it?
I'm really bad at like speaking because I kind of just barely learned about this. But basically it like harms the earth and people just like whenever they're tired of their clothes, they just throw it away and it just ends up in like a landfill or like somewhere like in the ocean or something. And I don't know, I just think it kind of bothers me. Like people could learn how to flip their clothes like when they're tired of it, turn it into something they want or something new or just donate it. There's so many homeless shelters that need that clothes that you don't want anymore. So you can just donate it or donate it at a thrift store. But I feel like at a shelter it's more better because for free. And yeah, it really harms the earth. I've been seeing like so many like clips of it and it just kind of bothers me. So I've been trying to learn how to sew.
That's so cool. Learning how to sew. That is something that I tried to learn and I haven't quite perfected it yet. But yes, all of the things that you said. Thank you, Laura, for coming off mute. So fast fashion. Does anybody have a name for what kind of system that participates in? Capitalism. Yes. Thank you, Lala. Thank you, Wendy. Capitalism and commercialization and overconsumption, right? Which is part of dishonoring the earth. I think I saw a documentary the other day. I say the other day like it was yesterday, but it was months ago, about a brand, and it explored how I believe it's Ghana. In Ghana, there is a city that the U.S. ships used and disposed textiles to. And a lot of that is clothing from the so-called United States. Um, and so, folks, there's whole markets dedicated to reselling our disposed of clothing. And it's also piled up on beaches and in the ocean. There's like whole ships that have containers just full of disposed clothing, and fast fashion contributes to that because of the overconsumption. So it harms the earth, but it also harms I would say it harms our relatives in Ghana who are forced because of the power that the United States government exerts over other countries. They're forced to take our trash, right? And so it would also harm our other relatives as well. Um, so yeah, so in kind of those are like multiple systems there, right? Because there's the US kind of hegemonic power that they exert, as well as exploitation of the earth, as well as capitalism and overconsumption, right? So multiple systems and how they interact. And it's all fueled by an action like consuming fast fashion, right? So it kind of makes you think how it can just a simple thing like going on Shein and ordering a cart full of things, right, can play into those larger systems, or that we're influenced to do those things because these systems are so entrenched. Does anybody else have another example? The military. Say more, Wendy. I know you do. Come on now.
You know I gotta. Um, yeah, I think you're raising this point about like individual versus like systemic, right? That we make a lot of errors around like we put the onus and responsibility um on individual responsibility, which is fair. I'm not saying it's not, but I love that you're also putting the emphasis on the systems too, right? And so we can get caught up in recycling and reducing and upselling and upcycling and et cetera, et cetera. And we can do all the things all day long. But does anyone have any idea who the number one institutional polluter of like emissions is, like globally? Drop it in the chat. Lala's like, say it though, say it. I want to hear from the youth. Do we have any idea? Like the single largest polluter global, like by like I'm saying like Okay, thank you for being honest, Laura. I appreciate that. The U.S. military. I'm gonna say it again. The U.S. military, the U.S. military, the Pentagon, the so-called United States U.S. military, right? And so I think it's important, and Taylor's doing a great job of, um, it's all the things, right? And also love that she's couching it on systems, right? Because we can't escape them, but also we have to make sure that we identify the correct targets too, right? Like the most dangerous target. So thank you for that. I'll get off my soapbox now. Check.
Thanks, Wendy. Yes, the military, largest polluter globally, as well as exploiter of various peoples globally, right? Various indigenous peoples. The military has been used domestically against indigenous and Black peoples, and other oppressed peoples, as well as internationally, right? Again, that hegemonic force that the U.S. has globally, right? And so all of those systems, yes, it's all about systems and how they intersect. And so Sabrina put in the chat, someone earlier spoke up about AI and its data centers. Sabrina, will you come off chat and explain a little bit more? I mean, come off mute.
Oh yeah. Um, AI is bad, guys. Yeah, somebody had mentioned it earlier in the chat that, it takes up a lot of water, but there's been a couple of documentaries floating around, a lot of Instagram videos floating around right now of real people that are impacted in those communities nearby the data centers. Um, and I don't see any in my regional area, but that's not to say that it's my issue, because it is. And it's definitely something that I can see, uh, you know, ex ex exploding in the near future. Everybody wants to use AI. Another one is like Chat GPT. I think even X has an AI system now. So when we look at these, these large like corporations and what they try to branch out, and for the sake of technology, we also look at like how that is detrimental to the environment and our current issues right now, right? It's almost like putting a cherry on top of a cake that none of us wanted to eat.
Yes, Anna, did you want to add to that at all? Just curious.
I mean, in general, if you look at AI as like it literally goes against all living things. Firstly, with like your critical thinking skills, especially with the youth, right? The youth are really encouraged to just ask Chat GPT instead of actually trying to think through it and push through that. So that's a muscle that it's killing internally in humans, and then externally, it takes 500 milliliters of water, which is about a water bottle per 100 words generated. So every 100 words is a water bottle. Just think about the math like that. Yeah, and if you do the minus AI in search, it works. Or just don't use Google, use DuckDuckGo, or even, you'll see the integration of AI and more systems that we use every day because they really want to push it. But the consumption of energy is 2% at a global scale, which is outrageous when you think about it, because it's the five major companies that actually are fueling the AI infrastructure, and it's Microsoft, Apple, why am I spacing? Google, did I say AWS, which is Amazon, and Meta. So those are like the big players that are pushing this. They're called hyperscalers because they create these big, kind of like that middle picture. That's not what data centers look like, but it's similar to that. Just imagine a big room of big computers just heating up and continuously needing to cool down with fresh water. So that's the other thing. They need fresh waters to operate. But I can go all day about this. So if you have any more questions about AI, I'll drop my email in the chat.
Thanks, Anna. Yes. So two things I saw about AI. One is that people in Texas are being asked to take shorter showers, even though majority of the energy consumption is data centers. And two is that I believe it was in Great Britain where they said that they would have to double the amount of energy that they use collectively to support data centers in the country. Sabrina, you had your hand raised.
Oh yeah, I was totally gonna shift gears because water came up, right, with the AI centers. Another thing that like is happening locally in my area is exploratory drilling. In our I live near the Black Hills. I can see the Black Hills out my window. It's where I go hunting, it's where I look for sage, it's where I look for all my medicinal plants, you know. And it's been a time coming if you look at it through history, you know, there was the Black Hills gold that struck. Um, and in modern times now, they have this exploratory drilling going on with uranium mining in specific. And bouncing off of what Wendy said, you know, that uranium is for the for nuclear power. But the regions that they're looking at drilling are really close to our bodies of water. And our bodies of water flow into city water. Um, and so I just wanted to bring that up too, because that's something that's happening present day in my area. I know it's happening for other tribes, you know, across the nation. That's something that we're seeing that they're trying to normalize this, that we need to dig down and look for these elements that are meant to be down there, right? We're not supposed to dig them up. They're there for a reason. Um, the other one too is like lithium mining, and the extraction of that for the sake of green colonialism. I feel like this we have to bring up green colonialism in this because it's true. And it's something that we're seeing in present day with you know, extraction of all these elements that aren't supposed to be coming out of the ground.
Yeah, thank you so much, Sabrina, for sharing that. I think that I also saw one other thing. So we are all responding to it that Laura said in the chat, right? That every Google search automatically places AI now, right? So these are again daily acts, right, that are normalized. Um, that they just you have to opt out of them because they're the default, right? These forms of exploitation of the that normalize exploitation of the earth, that harm the earth, and that harm our relatives, right? And so that the response, right? So Wendy responded, use subtract AI in the search to not turn off AI. So I'm going to use that as a segue into the next activity, and I will pass it to Wendy because we are, well, or Lala, I don't know how we want to do this, but in the next section, we're going to talk more about those kinds of things and how we can disrupt the everyday actions.
Thank you, Taylor. Go for it, Lala.
Hey y'all, sure, let's go to the next slide. Hey y'all, I'm Lala. My people come from the villages of Tehuitzin in what today is known as Puebla, Mexico, specifically Azuchitlan and Puebla. And I'm really happy to be in community with you all. So right now we are gonna move into things that we can do. What are the specific things that you are seeing in your own community or in the broader community? And then who are the trusted adults that you can lean on, as well as who are your trusted comrades that you can lean on to help you achieve solutions for these problems that we are seeing? So we are going to see a short clip. It's a trailer from a documentary that is really amazing. I would definitely check it out if I was y'all. So yeah, let's watch this.
Now we're on the other side of the apocalypse.
We got an audio error.
Indian, save the man. That's
Start
genocide.
it again. Let me know if you can hear it, yeah? How's that?
Our ancestors saw the world end once. That whole life was gone. Now we're on the other side of the apocalypse.
The different wrongs that have been done to Native peoples are just so sickening.
I mean, they even had slogans like kill the Indian, save the man. That's genocide.
Millions of people all across the Americas systematically wiped out, starting here on the East Coast. That's the reason that we don't have that relationship with some of those traditional foods anymore. What's popping? I see onions.
Yeah, we have red onions, yellow onions, squash.
Right?
We're salmon people. But what do we do if our salmon don't come back?
What I've come to understand is if we want to maintain our culture, then we have to have buffalo as a vital part of our communities.
What we're doing is reintroducing our young people to the land, the food, and our traditional ways of healing.
Working at the farm has brought a lot of healing to my life.
I've been clean 16 years, June now. I learned to heal through harvesting our traditional food.
We're celebrating Apache foodways in a kitchen that was built by Apaches for Apaches.
This movement among all indigenous people that they're listening, and it's like music. When you hear the drum, it's calling you, and it's Mother Earth. Mother Earth's heart's beating, and she's talking to all of us that we need to do something.
Let's inside for a second.
Good for their thing to do.
Yeah, so this is a documentary. We can go to the next slide now. It's called Gather, and it really follows a few different indigenous communities that are doing the work to stay in relationship with Mother Earth. I want to highlight there are two different storylines there. I think sometimes there is a narrative pushed on youth that youth don't have the power to make change in their community or the broader community, and that's not true. One of the young women there was only in high school, about to graduate, when she was testing buffalo and testing how it was beneficial for our bodies. And then another one, which was Ancestral Guards. They are older youth who teach younger youth how to fish and how to take care of the river, how to do it in a sustainable way. And that is the power of youth. And as we have been speaking throughout this whole presentation, it's really important to know, sorry if I'm speaking too fast. It's really important to acknowledge that any attack on Mother Earth is an attack on us all. And we have seen this from Turtle Island to Congo to what's happening in Palestine. Every single time there is an attack on our Mother Earth and on our lands, our peoples are the ones that are suffering those attacks as well in relation with Mother Earth. But we have also seen the beautiful power that youth have been doing throughout these attacks. From Turtle Island, from Palestine, from Congo, we have seen youth plant seeds and plant their ancestral plans throughout ongoing genocides. We have seen how youth are going onto social media and connecting with other youth to raise awareness of what is happening. We are seeing how youth here continue to support younger youth on how to protect Mother Earth. And that is something really beautiful. And we are also seeing the youth within all of these communities unite through different ways, through social media, like mentioned, or just gaining that knowledge of how we can support each other, because we understand that although we live in different lands, although we might live super far away from one another, our mother is still Earth and our mother is still one. I just want to share a quick story of my little cousin. Back in last year, I went back to my village early 2024. And she was only 10 years old at the time. And we were walking around our village and she was like, "Hey, Lala, can you explain to me what's happening in Palestine?" And then she proceeded to tell me that they only go out of our village like once a month, and to get to like the nearest city, like big city, it's probably like 2 hours. And she was saying how now every time they go, she is boycotting McDonald's. So she tells her family to eat somewhere else because she doesn't want that. And she's the youngest, so whatever she wants, that's what they're gonna get. And this little girl had no idea how much power she was holding, right? Like she had no idea that that decision to choose humanity, to choose Mother Earth, was not only impacting her choice and what she was eating, but she was impacting her whole family's choice in what they were consuming. Um, and that is the power that sometimes youth are not told that they have. And sometimes there's this false narrative push that you are too young, you don't understand, you don't know what's happening, when you more than anybody can feel it. Because I do feel like youth forever will be our greatest comrades in the fight to protect Mother Earth. And that is because youth have not been tinted with this idea of like just selfishness and everything else that has been put on us for so many years. The youth really just see with their hearts. So I want to talk about just what are some things in your own community or the broader community that you are seeing just is not in relationship with Mother Earth, right? Like I mentioned, an attack on Mother Earth is an attack on us all. So what in your community are you seeing that is not honoring Mother Earth? I do want us to like write these down. So I'll give folks about like 7 minutes to think about these and write them down before we share out. So name an issue in your community or the broader community that is not protecting Mother Earth. List out solutions for this problem. So how are you going to, and I want y'all to imagine like tangible solutions, but also like go out into your imagination on how we can fight these problems that you see in your own community. Thirdly is, who are the people that you can lean on to help you? Are these your classmates? Are these people in your community? Are these your neighbors? I want you to think about who are the people in your community that you can lean on to support you in this, and who will help you achieve this goal. Lastly, who are the trusted adults that you can go to help you with these actions? Does that make sense? Does anybody need clarity on any of those? Okay, if you do, you could just go ahead and put it in the chat or send me a message on the chat, and then I can give more clarity. I'm gonna give folks about 7 minutes to think about these things and write them down. I am gonna push us to unmute ourselves and share these out. You don't have to turn on your camera, but I do want to hear folks just like what they have in mind for these things. So we're gonna give folks 7 minutes. I don't know if Wendy, you want to play some music in the background while we
Great idea. Yeah, 100%. I got the perfect track.
Travel the place, baby. Can't afford to cover the course of course, baby. Settle down on it for cause judging by the basics, all already comfortable, stuck up in the matrix. Shit is basic. Past credentials, but understand your favors at the peak my whole potential. I'm out of shame. Been passive, trying to fit the circle since I don't know how to act shit. Half of y'all was steady insecure, don't try to backflip. Just because the future in your flow's already active. Only 4 years. Testing. young veteran, you classic. Nah, not the war song. Fuck the whole keep it going. Against the whole door. I'm still 18. Never forget it. It's life after death. Roll the credits. Say my feelings for you. Say. But in my make I take a trip to see Jamaica. My spirit with the finger back design. Definitely giant for other new America. I'm over this so many that this I put my pen in it. Got my with it. On my bone. Flesh on my flesh. Greatness feeling you can make me feel less. So I'm not impressed. Smoke, I'm out for like an empress. Great state I'm in all states I'm in. I might find a form in my melanin. Great state I'm in all states I'm in. I might find a form in my melanin. Great state I'm in all states I'm in. I might find a form in my melanin. Great state I'm in all states I'm in. I might find a form in my melanin. Last name Simple, first name T. The body ate the food they told the great to their body. I'm stripping, yeah, they see back on. Wait, I the war, first war I did it. No mess, no my wasn't up to date. We been reincarnated. Trying to finish what they started and we made it. Great state I'm in all states I'm in. I might find a form in my melanin. Great state I'm in all states I'm in. I might find a form in my melanin. Great state I'm in all states I'm in. I might find a form in my melanin. Great state I'm in all states I'm in. I might find a form in my melanin.
I woke up to the morning first. Baby, you just like me. When I get up off this ground, I should leaves back down. Brown, brown, till I ring. Oh, shade. My umbrella green. Oh, my. I'm all my favorite colors. All my favorite.
All right, crew, go ahead and wrap up your thoughts. Laura, would you like more time? Did you need more time? Let us know. I'll give about 1 more minute.
Great clouds, white walls, blue sky, we gonna fly, you know.
Okay, it's hard to turn this song down because I just want to play it loud. But that was Colors by the Black Pumas. And the one before that was Sampa the Great Final Form. Taking it over to you, Lala.
All right. Great. So I'm not gonna force folks to like share out, like turn on their mics. But I do want folks to either share out or put it in the chat, whatever makes you feel more comfortable, on the things that y'all thought about. Does anybody want to share?
Laura has her hand up.
Yeah, go ahead, Laura.
An issue I saw. Sorry if you hear birds in the background. My birds get noisy. But an issue I saw was a lot of littering. Like in my community, there's like I feel like a lot of homeless people, and so there's sometimes a lot of trash everywhere. And at my old high school, there was an environmental club. They would like pick up the trash and everything, but I feel like now not a lot of like students care that much like about like throwing away the trash. Like even the school bought containers for them to throw away their trash properly, like recycling, landfill, compost. But no one really like cared for it. They just threw away their trash like nothing. So a solution was that I created an elementary school toolkit. It's still in like progress, but it's kind of done. And I worked on it with my old environmental club advisor. We thought elementary school kids were a better focus, because since they're little, they find everything fun, and teaching them young, I feel like would help them like grow up into like learning those things already, how to do those things already, and hopefully like care more in the future about recycling and everything. Because I feel like kids now, like high schoolers mainly, they're just focused like on their own things, and they don't really care that much about like doing like putting that much effort into just properly like throwing away their trash. So I think elementary school kids are better focused, and hopefully I can create one for middle schoolers for when those kids go into middle school and then high school. So I hope to present that for next school year. And another solution is just cleanups, for like city cleanups. Maybe I can like contact someone from the city and they could help me. Because I think they will, because they do have a cleanup here for a river. So I'm sure they will be willing to help me clean up. And people I can lean on is my old club advisor, my boyfriend. Me, I don't drive, so he'll be a really good Uber. Um, and my old manager, I did this internship for schools on how they can be more sustainable. So we just gave like suggestions to them, did research, audited the schools. So I feel like she would be a good person I can lean on. And some people I volunteered with too. They're kind of in charge of like the trash, like the people that come pick up your trash. I volunteered for them. So I feel like they'll be a good people I can lean on. And how they can support me is maybe helping me get volunteers. They could reach out to people, and maybe I could present my project to people that they know, and that could like help me get it out there. And just encouraging words, really. I feel like just encouraging words would really like help me build up the confidence to do these things and make me like, I wouldn't say feel good to do those things, but it's good to feel good to do those things, like have support, like okay, like how do I say, oh, like good job, I'm so proud of you for doing this. I feel like that's like very motivating. And yeah.
That's amazing. Yeah, thank you so much for sharing and being in community with us today. That's amazing. So this is a plan that you already have.
Yeah, it's still in progress though, because I kind of finished it, but then I was like, I kind of want to add more to it. So now I'm just kind of working on it this summer.
Oh, that's beautiful. Yeah, I think a lot of the folks leading this are mothers with young folks. So that's absolutely beautiful, and I would love like for my kids to go to a school one day where there's stuff like that implemented already in their like just daily routines in community with Mother Earth and how they can be taught that in a school setting. That's amazing that you're doing that and that yeah, just that's such a young age. That's incredible. Thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you, Lala. Thank you for facilitating us through that. And thank you, Laura. I mean, I feel like we could just pack it up, go home. Laura's got this, so we're good. And with that beautiful action item and just so many great examples about what we could do, we're gonna show this last another example of like Indigenous youths to really drive the point home about like collective action and never doubt that one person or a small group of committed people can like change the world.
I can't hear, friend.
Ooh, hang on. How's that?
For breaking news as we're on the air tonight, a dramatic final show
Okay, let's try again.
down over the Dakota pipeline in North Dakota. In fact, pictures coming in just moments ago, police moving in right there to make their arrests.
Standing Rock wasn't a protest, it was a prayer. And that's the thing is we are protectors, not protesters. Abebite, Withathamake, Ajaje, Withate, Hekudeme. Hello, my name is Alethea Phillips. I'm from the Omaha tribe of Nebraska. Going out to Standing Rock and hearing about it and hearing that, it's a really a youth-led movement and thinking, these other people out here are really that much older than I am. And going out there and seeing youth leadership and what that means. And I think everyone there, whether they're youth or they have youth in mind for why we're doing this, is kind of what it really meant. And to kind of look to the younger generation as people who want change and are willing to make change happen. For me, it just really felt like that's where I needed to be. It's what I need to be doing. Youth, I think, see it more as a responsibility to be involved. During that time, I knew I was absolutely going to be, there to the end. And I looked at my dad and I told him, I said, hey, I'm going back over there. And I went back and I did fully intend to be arrested that day.
I am the Executive Director of Native Youth Alliance. Alethea Phillips is the Youth Coordinator and backbone of Native Youth Alliance.
So Native Youth Alliance started out as my father's nonprofit organization, and he did several things for a couple of years, working on the Indian Child Welfare Act, setting up teepees on the mall, working in Washington, D.C. But right now we focus on teaching the next generation the culture and the importances, and then also working on things like environmental problems to make sure that, we all have clean air and water to drink.
In our Indigenous ways, we believe that what we do today affects 7 generations from now. This vision it's her right to step in here and help lead.
So kind of during the breakdown period of Standing Rock, um, there was some people who came who were taking all the flags down, and we said, hey, you know, our flag's in there. And he said, well, if you can find your flag, you can have it. And so we pointed it out and we knew just the colors, and we're like, we don't need to look around. It's that one right there. And we're going to be bringing the flag back to the Omaha people this year, and we'll be returning it to the tribe. And so, yeah, we're really hoping that it brings a sense of pride back to the Omaha people. You know, the Omahas are also facing the Keystone XL pipeline, and kind of bringing back that as support there as well. This is going to be our world. It is the unification of the indigenous people from all across the country that is going to make the impact. It is us. And this is the climate, this is the economy, this is the society that we're being brought into. Oh, Liliwange. And because it's not just for us, it's for our children, and it's for the earth itself. Ushimaka, Mother Earth.
Awesome. So awesome. Amazing. So I think we definitely drove the point home, right? That we all have power and we can all um do the things. And I think it's really beautiful that here in particular we have youth who are already doing the thing, are already making moves. Um, and we didn't get a chance really quickly. I just want to highlight one of our comrades, youth comrades here, Seth. Um, who has sent a question to the chat. I'll read it verbatim. I believe I do not have a question per se, but an idea that could focus on the bleaching industry to also better honor our grandmother, the earth. In developing these themes, I find it interesting to present a program we've launched, quote, Roots for Resilience. This program aims to reevaluate their knowledge of Indigenous peoples to better combat not only bleaching, but also to use their knowledge to clarify our connections with the earth and other biological diversity. Striking examples that have been ignored until now are during COVID-19 and the Ebola epidemic in the Democratic Republic of Congo. While awaiting the international response to this scourge, Indigenous peoples, through their traditional knowledge, have already proposed effective solutions with medicinal plant blends, and so far they have provided living testimonies. It doesn't get any better than that, I don't think. And everywhere we can see examples of folks popping into action, moving communities, and respecting traditional Indigenous sovereign ways and knowledge. So yeah, big shout out to Lala, Taylor, Sabrina, our entire comms team, our entire development team, finance, everybody who has their own little grain of sand to make all of this possible. I want to quickly plug our next Decolonize Youth Summer Session in August 21st. There you go, and you have the times there. And lastly, I want to plug our quick survey here. One sec. Technology. All right, here we go. Yeah, this is specifically for Laura, no pressure, just our regular, Disney princess, with Burbs in the background. Laura, you were so appreciated today. Thank you for coming. Seth as well. We also had one more youth, who I think hopped off. But if you get a chance, Laura, we'd love to hear your thoughts about what went well today, what didn't.
And yeah, we want to hear about your thoughts, and we will use that feedback for the next session. Yeah, so shout out to everybody. And the last thing I will say to close is like just a traditional indigenous perspective of the 7 generations, backwards and forwards. I hope that we've encapsulated that today. We've shown a little bit of where we come from, the lineages that we can come from, the traditional stories, and cosmovisiones, as we say, cosmologies about where we come from and where we're going. So we all have a role to play, Indigenous youth and relatives, particularly in protecting and defending Mother Earth. And with that, thank you so much for your time. Have a beautiful day, and we hope to see you for the next session. Thank you, Laura.
Smoke signals come with the fire. Better run for your life. Yeah. You the mountains, better get higher, better get higher. We get higher. Time. Tonight. Take back what's mine.